Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rollout. I'm Lindsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome. Today we
Um,
are going to be talking about the infamous Cowboy Bebop live
yes.
action TV show.
So again,
Oh,
spoilers, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. However, if you've watched the anime, not really many spoilers. But we must
or
always,
maybe there is.
maybe there
You
is,
should watch our show.
find out.
Oh
Um,
God.
yeah,
Okay.
so Cowboy Bebop dropped on Netflix, obviously. And for those of you who aren't aware, I don't know how you wouldn't be aware. It's obviously based on the anime series from the 90s, which was a beloved anime, absolutely beloved. It had, I mean, the voice cast for it is some of the biggest names in the business. Um, and even though it was a really short run, it didn't have a ton of episodes, it is just persisted as one of the most popular anime, I think, out there.
Oh yeah. And especially in the US too. I
Yeah,
think it's a lot of people's touchstone in the US as their introduction to anime.
right.
Uh, I mean,
It was
like it's
fun and it was funny and it
well,
was
it's right
space
up there
adventure.
with Studio Ghibli,
Right.
where it's like if you haven't seen if you're not an anime fan or if you haven't really watched that much anime,
Mhm.
chances are you've seen like a Ghibli film and probably Cowboy Bebop.
Right.
And um that's how important it is to the zeitgeist of anime, especially in the US. If
Right.
it was very highly syndicated in the US.
Yeah.
And I mean, I absolutely adore this show. I adore the studio that the show has come out of. And when I first heard that they were doing a live action version of the anime, my immediate response was to recoil in fear
And horror. Hmm.
and just be like, no, because it's also very well known that once an American studio gets a hold of an anime to do a live action adaptation, it never goes well.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
It,
just things are animated for a reason.
yeah. I mean, there are things, that's why there's different mediums in this industry. That's why
Yeah.
we have anime and cartoons and all of these things. And a lot of times when they try to adapt, like, obviously we're getting an Avatar Last Airbender, we've seen comic book adaptations, we've seen cartoon adaptations, and I'm putting anime in the same category as cartoons is because when you're trying to adapt something that is originally in that form, I just feel like it doesn't translate all that well. And I think that
It,
was the big issue with this, especially with the humor, in that when you see real people saying a lot of these punny things, it doesn't play the same as when you see
no.
anime characters saying these things.
Well, and for me, well, first of all, anime is an art form all on its
Yes.
own, and it can express emotions and feelings and be extremely evocative just through imagery.
Mhm.
And it's all about the mood and the feeling, and not only just that, but also the way that motion is captured,
Mhm.
that characters emotion, like you can animate an emotion very well, like you can animate an emotion very clearly, whereas if you have an actor, you know
Right.
it's just very different. And unfortunately, a lot of I mean, well, and it's not unfortunate. Here's the thing is that to me, anime plays out a lot like a soap opera does, where you have a lot of high drama and very high stakes, and a lot of the characters most of the time are playing it like up here at at like a 9 or a 10, whereas if you were to do like a straight like film, just a live action film, usually you want your actors to be
Right.
at like a 5 or a 6 until you get to like the optimum emotional points of the film, and then that's, you know, once the climax is happening, that's where they're showing, you know, the most emotion.
Right.
And so that doesn't really translate very well, because you have a lot of these high drama characters that
Mhm.
are larger than life and look absolutely fine in animation, and then you try and bring it over into
Right.
live action and it just looks weird and overacted. And not to say that like the main cast was overacting,
No,
because
they
I
were
thought their
doing,
performances were
yeah,
quite
they, with
lovely
the script that they
with what
had,
they
I,
had.
yeah, exactly. Well, and I
But
think this is also, we see this also with the production design. Like one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is that these sets and the backgrounds
God,
just don't, they don't work in the live action.
fuck me.
They just don't work.
Fuck me. Okay, so
Yes. How
the
do you
set.
really feel about this, Genevieve? We
Oh,
have
the
thoughts.
sets range from being interesting and like they put the budget towards them as they should have.
Yeah.
Like the Bebop looks great
Yeah.
and the interior shots of the Bebop looks fantastic. But then you get to a scene on a rooftop where they're in the red light district,
Yeah.
and all it is just a plain ass rooftop in which you would see anywhere in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But then they have a giant sign that says porn
Yeah.
right
So
across
that's
it.
how you know it's a seedy place.
And that's how you know that you're in the red light district, is that you just have this giant neon sign in the background, just suspiciously between the two characters before they're about to fight, that
Right.
says porn.
Yeah. And
Where
some of it,
nobody on the street can see it.
yeah.
But still, for some reason, it's not just sitting in the corner like broken up and unlit. It's fully lit.
Right.
And
Right. And then some of the others
like
said,
somebody's up
yeah.
there on that lonesome rooftop, just
and
like,
they lit it.
huh,
Yeah.
porn.
Yeah. And
Got
then
it.
some of the scenes, it's like, oh, you're on a soundstage. Like,
Yes.
it looked like, you know, it almost had the feel of network sitcoms. Because, you know,
Yeah.
network sitcoms have that, like, you're on a soundstage look. Like every time you look at a network television sitcom, you know, you can tell it's shot on a soundstage. And so much of this movie, I felt like,
I don't know if you felt it while watching it, but especially the first scene in the pilot episode, and that is awful to do to your project and your actors.
yeah,
But it just looked like a scene that could have been ripped straight out of an original Star Trek, the TV show.
oh yeah, yeah,
And it was that bad. Like you could see the fresh paint on the walls. Like this place, all of these places that they go to are very rich and they're supposed to be really well lived in. Like when they go to TJ, I actually thought that that looked pretty good.
yeah. It was
pretty good.
grungy, yeah.
But then when you get to like, there is a middle episode in which they go and they fight this like AI machine, and then Spike gets trapped in an AI
Yeah,
like machine loop.
Yeah. In his own head, yeah.
In his own head. And that just looked like they went to a back lot somewhere in from the 70s, like a regular like small town city street back lot. They did nothing to make it look like it was in any way a colony in space. They were just like, let's use this like street corner and not dress it up in any way and not put any.
Yeah, it was really like, I was like, could they not even afford extras? Like there weren't even really background actors. I was just like,
one of the signs, and I don't know why they fuck up with the signs all the time, but one of the signs in that episode, like it's like one of those that are supposed to like go over the door like a marquee, and like half of it was printed on like the letters, like half of the building name was printed on one half of the sign and it was printed on the other half, and you were supposed to like, they were supposed to mesh together so it just made one complete sign.
right.
But somebody like didn't line up the corrugated cardboard that they printed it on quite right. So you had this like white seam like right in the middle because they weren't lined up correct. They couldn't even be fucked to bother to line that up correctly, and it was glaring at me so bad because everything else in that city just looked so underdressed and under just no care was put into that scene setting. And because Spike is in a memory loop,
yes,
you see that same street corner 1,000 fucking times.
Yeah.
Because like he continually has to restart over. And I'm just like, oh, here we are with this fucking street scene. God, I hate this set. I mean, maybe, so bad. And this is the one that you chose to like just focus in on the most out of all the sets that you've used so far.
I was less bothered by the Game of Thrones Starbucks incident than I was by this.
Well, because it kept happening over and over and over again. You kept seeing it
over and over. Exactly.
It was like
that Wait, did you miss it? Here, let's show it to you again. Did you still miss it? Let's show it to you again.
It was that movie. Like, have you ever seen Ultraviolet?
Oh God, not for a very long time.
Okay, but you know how in that movie there are scenes where the CGI is just unfinished for the backgrounds. That's kind of what it felt like. Was you get to like, you have a good scene and like you're like, oh, okay, all of this has been fleshed out and like all of the post-production work was done and they were able to spend their money on it. And then you'll get to another scene where like the sky won't be done in the background and you're like,
well, and
this is wonder, where they ran out of money.
Did they run out? Because it's like the other thing that was well, the other thing that stood out to me was like, how did we not have any dog fights with Swordfish 2 or with the red, with spacecraft? Like, we aren't even really acknowledging the fact that we're in space for most of this movie. Like, we see a few glimpses, but I was like, that's really, we're not going to have an epic space battle. Like, if you've learned anything from Star Wars, it's that you have, and Star Trek, it's that you have to have epic space battles.
Which there are a few. There are actually quite a few dogfights that happen in the anime.
That's what I'm saying. They happen a lot. They happen many times in the anime.
The very first episode, they have one, but it's in it's still in the skies of TJ, so they're not out in space, but they're still in spaceships. And they're like they're chasing each other. I think it is a car chase. I haven't rewatched the anime in a bit, but it's a car chase with Swordfish, and it's it's really interesting to watch that. Oh yeah, and then there's also like the police ships that are also chasing down the vehicle as well. And also, I don't know, I'm not going to say that I absolutely hated this show. I want to get that out right now. I didn't hate this show. I think if you've never seen the anime, then you can get through this show and enjoy yourself.
It can be a fun romp in the, whatever. It kills a few hours.
But it's just the fact that you have the anime and you have so many interesting stories that they go into more detail and then put more emotional weight on, and a lot higher stakes in a lot of the different episodes and problems that they encounter and the villains that they encounter throughout the anime. This one, it feels kind of like they're glossing over it. Like, instead of getting orange juice, you're getting like water flavored with orange Mio, like that's kind of what it feels like, where I know what the story is, but the way that they decide to tell it in this show is a very watered down version that even with the music and with the good core cast, it just doesn't land the same way emotionally for me.
The thing I missed too was like, I felt like the dynamics between the group of Spike and Jet and Faye was not there that we had in in the anime. Like, you know, in the anime, they're kind of this group of like wayward souls who, you know, like they kind of banded together. And in this, it's like Jet's got a family. Faye, who was honestly probably the best part of the show, is not even in it all that much. Like we don't see her till a couple episodes in, and then she's gone, and then she's back, and then she's gone. So it's like we didn't really get to see them as a group. Like I honestly felt like they were just like coworkers. Like, hey guys, we're clocking in for our next bounty, as opposed to like a crew where we have camaraderie. And, you know, maybe they're setting it up for a sequel and these were supposed to be the origin stories, but it's like, I feel like that was one of the best parts of the anime was it was just this beloved crew. And we didn't get that here.
Right. I mean, Spike and Jet in this seem more like buddy cops.
It's exactly what they seemed like.
Which is fine, if that's how you want to go about it. But in the anime, they're more like a family where like it kind of feels like, yeah, they're friends and, you know, and yeah, they love each other and their family, but it also gives off the feeling that they're kind of, all of these people are kind of stuck with each other.
Yeah.
In one way or the other. Like,
well, like they don't even like each other for half of it too.
Right. And that plays into each one of their tragic backstories, that if they had their way, they wouldn't be in this situation together. They wouldn't be choosing to be living together, but like since their lives are the way they are, they have to kind of band together and be a family. Like, you know, Faye has her issues with the memory loss, but also being conned out of every cent that she has. And they don't really, I don't think they added that aspect in the TV show either, that she accrues, essentially in the anime, she accrues the con artist, who is a dude who pretends to romance her. She accrues that man's debt. So she wakes up in debt because she cannot pay for being under cryo sleep for a couple hundred years, I think it was.
Right.
And she also gets conned by this guy who also he pretends to die and he dumps all of his debt on her. And so that's why she needs to be a bounty hunter. Right. And that's why she does kind of all these other dirty dealings on the side. Whereas, you know, Spike, obviously he has his, you know, long lost love and his mob ties. And then you have Jet, who also gets betrayed, and he also has a love interest, and that story is completely different. Who he had a wife who ran away from him, who just like didn't want to like she didn't want to ride his coattails, basically, like throughout life. She wanted to like make her own decisions, even if she is going to like go down the wrong path. But all of that leads these characters into having to be together. They don't choose to be together because they want to. Whereas like this show doesn't really put that much weight on these characters past.
No.
Even like it just like, seems so
and this was one of the things that bothered me the most was like, again, we talked about this, you know, with our Hawkeye episode, like Hawkeye's family is a plot device. Julia, they weren't even trying to cloud the fact that she was a plot device. She was literally the hot blonde. She was the definition of a plot device. Like she served no purpose. And then at the very end, we're like, what? Now she's the bad guy, but she's shown no ambition this entire time. She's just been a, you know, sniveling like waif this whole time. And I was just also like, that was so infuriating to me. I mean, it was right up there with Vicious's constipation face through the whole thing, which really started to get to me. I was just like, seriously, but Julia, I'm just like, what? Why are you here?
I don't know, but like I saw that coming a mile away.
Oh, for sure.
Because I was like, they're not going to be able to continue this without sidelining Vicious in any way, like because like she needs something to do, so this has got to be the thing. Like obviously they're going to, you know, have this thing, which also with the character Vicious, the the beauty about that character in the anime is the less you know about him, the better.
Mm, yeah.
Where we spend way too much time with this character.
Yeah. We spent
He's not
an entire
threatening,
episode on his backstory. Well, their backstory, but it was
right?
mostly from his, his backstory. Yeah.
He's not threatening. He doesn't seem like he would be any person to take over a mafia, like as a mafia boss in any sense of the word. He just seemed
He,
quite ineffectual from the get-go.
he was a hired thug. I mean, he was good
Right.
at
He
killing
seemed
things and yelling,
extremely
really good at
ineffectual from the
yelling.
get-go, whereas in the anime, he is basically a force of nature.
Yeah.
He doesn't say much. He doesn't really do that much, but the things that he does do are very, like, very high stakes, like big money moves. Like one of the first things he does is kill off the entire syndicate that syndicate heads that he's working for, and it's just like, well, it's me now.
Yep.
And then you get to learn about his backstory through other characters and stuff, and he was positioned as this character who all his life has been this way, has been this sort of force of nature, unstoppable, kind of, like psychopath character.
Right.
And that's what made him intimidating and scary. Whereas, like, I don't want this guy, oh my god, like, it's
He was
nothing.
the most cartoony part of the show. Like he screamed cartoon villain to me. I mean, we joked in Hawkeye that, what's his name had the twirly cartoon mustache and we instantly knew he was the bad guy, but at least his acting was great. Like this vicious character, he's about as stereotypical and one-dimensional bad guy as you can get.
Right. I like I don't know. Yeah, they just really cut him off at the knees as far as being any type of like big player, major
Yeah.
league villain. And I Julia was extremely distracting to me because like I feel like every 5 seconds she's just kind of like mugging to the camera. And I mean that's not the actress's fault, it's just kind of how they framed her.
They framed her what the abysmal lines they gave her. Yes.
Yeah, they just kind of framed her in a way that like I think they were going for this like old Hollywood glam thing,
Yeah.
and it really didn't work.
It didn't work at all. Like I felt like I was like, okay, they're going for like a Jessica Rabbit, like Kim Basinger, Michelle Pfeiffer type thing right here. And
But they gave her no personality
none
they
until
gave
the
her
very
nothing
end.
to work
And it
on,
came out, yeah, and at the
to
very end,
work
it
with.
came out of left field too. Cause you're like, because I know they were trying to set it up that like, oh, it was her idea to kill off the syndicate heads. And like now she's taking, I'm like, but they didn't give us any sort of backstory or any scenes. She just all of a sudden is now the villain, which I was just like, where did this come from? Yeah.
Well, we would be dumb if we didn't talk about the bullshittery that went on with Faye and
Okay, yes.
the
We're
character
gonna leave this
casting,
to
the
the
character
end.
look, and then all the man children
Oh, the
and
man
just
children.
people just crying the
Because
blues on the
yeah,
internet
like I
about.
said, Daniella Pineda, I thought she did a fantastic job as this character. I loved, she stole the scenes, the lines they gave her to, she was fantastic with the role she was given.
Yeah, no, she was very natural, and
All
I
y'all
think she
haters
was
out
the
there
one.
can go back to your mama's basement. So yeah, Jen, let's talk about some of the horrible things that have been said about the character and about this actress.
Okay.
I mean,
Where to fucking start? I guess at the beginning. First of all, I want to say that I think she did a fine job. I think that she, out of all of them, was the most natural on camera,
yeah.
especially in that role.
I liked her look. I liked what they did.
I thought it was fine. she had very short shorts on with whatchamacallit,
Leggings under it, or
with
Mhm.
very opaque, it was tights. She had tights on under
Yeah.
it. And so like it wasn't anything. I would say that like if I were to walk down the street in that I would definitely turn some heads, as would anybody else who
Yeah.
walks down the street in that.
Yeah. And she is a
Um
beautiful woman. I mean,
yeah,
she
no,
is a
she's
gorgeous
absolutely
woman.
gorgeous too.
Yeah.
So when the casting came out for Faye, people were being very rude,
That's the
to say
polite
the
way of saying
least,
it. Yes. Mhm.
because she did not have the body type of Faye, which I would actually argue that I think everybody can shut the fuck up, because Julia actually had the body type that they were looking for in Faye.
Yeah.
So they did cast one woman that
Looked
like I
like she
think
could be in an anime. Yeah.
right. And so I'm just like it's not about that, guys. It's about finding the right actress
Yeah.
to play the role, with the right charisma. And it's not just about the way that they look, people.
No. But
It's also
they
very much about the
yeah.
way that they can present the character.
And it's a live action, so you need to have clothing that looks practical to be running around in, which for
Right.
classic anime look would not work. But no, they called her, what did they say? She was too short, she was too flat chested, and she wasn't skinny enough. Were
Yeah,
just a
which
few
she's
of the things
absolutely rail
that were
thin,
said.
so I don't know where that. But yes, they were saying terrible things about her. There were a lot of people that just, I mean, as there always is when there are like casting choice reveals, but it always
Yeah.
just seems to be this way, in particular when it's either, when it's a woman of color um being cast, because then you always have this like tiny little corner of the internet that's like, why is she not white? And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, we're not even going to get into why that is, all the reasons why that is just fucking incorrect.
Just
But
absolutely ridiculous.
so the actress went on, I forgot, was
It
it
was
a TikTok
Instagram.
or an
No, it was
Instagram?
well, it was originally Instagram. She might have gone on TikTok,
Okay.
but she did that apology on Instagram,
Right. She
quote
did
unquote.
like this like quippy apology for not being the like
Is
the
that the 6
skinny.
feet tall double D 2-inch waist?
Yeah. And like she was I could have told her not to do it, but it was totally her right to do it. And I actually thought it was quite funny.
Yeah.
And it was actually something that Faye Valentine herself would probably have
Right.
done as well.
Well, and
And
I think she also said something about how like they tried the original costume on her, and as soon as they tried to do stunts, the costume failed to cover most of her body.
it just like got sucked up into
Got sucked up,
every
yeah.
crevice of her
Which I'm
body.
like, are people going to make the same argument when Margot
Which,
Robbie's Barbie comes out? Because I hate to break it to you, Margot Robbie, again, drop dead gorgeous woman, does not have the dimensions of a Barbie doll.
right, nobody
If you
does.
weren't aware.
So yeah, no, and there is always going to be pushback when there are characters, when there's casting for such iconic characters, and especially women, because it is for most people like it is 90% about the way that they look, rather than
Right.
thinking about their acting chops and whether or not they'll be able to pull off the role correctly.
Right.
And that's just where we are as a society, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, she didn't go over very big when they first announced her as as having been cast in the role. And then she made her, what I would argue to be obviously a joking video,
Yeah.
response to the people who were just being absolutely horrible to her. And then you had more backlash about the same people, plus probably others, who are like, well, she's just making fun of the fans and she's just being, a jerk about this, that, the other thing.
Yeah.
And how disrespectful can you be?
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, if she were if she were a dude, people
Mhm.
would probably have taken it for the joke that it was. If she were a dude, she wouldn't have to post that video because
No, she
nobody would
wouldn't.
be dogpiling her so bad about the way that she looked.
Mhm.
Um, but also it's just one of those things where people are also going and tanking the show because they didn't like what her response, they didn't like her video response. And a lot of the bad reviews will also like put in like a one liner about like that awful mean actress who made fun of the fans. And it's like,
Well, you
I'm like,
started it.
let me,
You started it.
we just had a show about like we just had a show talking about Hawkeye, and did I go on and on about Jeremy Renner and the bullshit that he's done? No, I didn't say one
We didn't talk
word
about that
about it.
at all. No.
One word about it, but like he's done plenty of things that are similar and worse than this, in which nobody said boo about, and it didn't hurt the ratings of anything he's ever been in.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, his app tanked like crap, but nobody wanted that to begin with. I'm talking about the productions that he's been a part of.
Right.
And like,
And with all like everyone's screaming about cancel culture, and like the fact is there's still shitty people out there doing shitty things, mostly
right.
men. You have one woman standing up for herself, and the fact that she's trying to not be sexualized in a role that is traditionally, because again, we're going back to the original anime, which tends to be over sexualized characters. That is part of the style.
Right. Or just made fun of for how she looks, period.
Right. It's like she's gorgeous. She's not too short. She's not too flat chested. She's not, she's not a size -2,
And
but she's
she's
a beautiful
insanely
woman.
talented.
It's
Yeah.
and she was funny and she was quippy and she stole every scene she was
She was
in.
very natural in the role.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here's my thing, and I don't want to get into the slippery slopiness of this, but
Yeah.
like, you have on the one hand an actress who's just trying to defend herself and trying to move on with her life in the role that she has been given, which is a groundbreaking role for her.
Yeah.
And then you have a whole bunch of other people, a whole bunch of other actors and actresses who have physically, verbally assaulted people, abused
Yep.
people,
Said hateful things
um,
on social media.
saying horrible things on social media, who want nothing more, who are, committing actual crimes,
Yeah.
committing actual crimes,
Mm-hmm.
and they are not being punished for it.
Yep.
It'll just be like, oh, well, that is a shame now, isn't it? But I'm still going to go see that MCU film, or I'm still going to go see, that next Fast and the Furious or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it has no effect on the film or the TV show or whatever. But then you just have this one woman who said, who made a joke, and now it is negatively affecting the scores of the TV show that she's in, which is incredibly unfair to everybody who's worked on this show.
Yeah.
Not to say this show is a fucking masterpiece, but it also didn't need that bit of negativity tacked onto it,
No, it did not.
which has been oddly huge for as little a thing as she did and said. It has been huge, like, ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And it's this, it goes back to this whole, and we saw this with Captain Marvel, we saw this with Birds of Prey, is that there is a demographic out there that wants to keep geeky content just for men and doesn't like to admit that there are women out there like us who are massive geeks, and we love our comics and we love our anime and we love our, cartoons and our superheroes. And we don't need to see those sexualized versions of women all the time. So
Yeah.
welcome
like,
to the 21st century. If you haven't realized, it's 2021. You're not the only audience. In fact, I would say you're becoming the minority audience at this point.
well, and that's the thing, is that it has always been a minority. It has always been
They're
a
just
small
loud.
corner, but they're so loud, and that's what sucks. But like, I would also be like, I love the article that you sent me about that British MP, the Nick Fletcher guy, who declared that replacing male characters with female counterparts is depriving young men of role models and then making them commit crimes. Like,
oh no.
he actually blamed having more positive female role models on TV and
We're
film.
making men pussies by doing this, apparently.
Leading men to commit crimes.
Because they
Real
have
crimes.
no self-control.
And that's the reason for the rising crime rate in Britain, is that because we have Wonder Woman and Rey Skywalker, whoever the hell, that men are now committing crimes.
Which I'm just like, and I want to have a conversation about toxic masculinity. Really? Really not? We're not going to address that elephant in the room.
My favorite argument about that whole thing is just like, so since women have not had major role models in film and TV, does that mean that up until this very point that women were the ones that were committing all the crimes, and now it's switched over to the men folk? Because I don't think that, because
we didn't have good enough role models in comic books and anime to tell us what to do and tell us what was right and wrong.
I absolutely love that, though. I'm just like, y'all have run out of excuses. You are fresh out of excuses as to why shit is not working for you guys.
I mean, it's video games though, Genevieve. If you didn't know, it's video games. They're responsible for everything.
It's always video. Okay, so when you're a politician and you've run out of all sorts of arguments and reasons, just fall back on video games and them damn women folk getting represented.
I know. It's not like we're 55% of the population or anything. And all we're asking for is, I don't know, 50% of the representation in media. Is that too much to ask? I would
laugh so hard if they made John McClane a woman. I can't wait for that day. Like, I don't even care anymore that series is dead to me at this point. Like,
well, it's like the internet lost its shit when the 13th Doctor was announced as being female. It's like, Doctor Who can't be a woman. And I'm like, they're literally a regenerating Time Lord who's lived for thousands of years. They can be whatever the fuck they want to be.
There's 13 seasons. Just let the women have one. Like, I don't even watch. The show's been on since the
60s. Give us one doctor. That's all we ask. And then, have Chris Chenball totally tank the writing. But that's a whole other episode. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad. I love you, Jenny.
So, yes, Cowboy Bebop. We kind of got sidetracked. But the whole Faye Valentine casting thing was such a big part of it.
It really was. And it happened before the show even dropped. Like,
it was such a big part of it that, to me, that's kind of where the real story is. Yeah. Not the fact that people like fucking hate this show or, this, that, the other thing. Like, not the fact that they can't make a sign to save their lives and, dirty up a street corner. Porn. Add
some background actors. Dude, the rates for background, not that expensive.
It's $125 per diem. Yeah, exactly. So you can fit that in somewhere. But yeah, it was. Kids will really permeated. It permeated every new thing that came out from that point on, from the dropping of the edited from the edited opening sequence. Mm-hmm. Like, I would go on Twitter and I saw the Netflix official drop of the trailer sequence, and of course you have every other person. Like, once you get down to a certain point of the comments section, it started to be like every other person saying something about, they're not going to watch it because of the woman who's playing Faye, they're not going to watch it because of the awful things that one actress said. And it's like, but she really didn't say anything awful
No,
about
she
anybody.
said it about herself.
Right.
And
She
you
was
for
making a
being shitty human
self-deprecating
beings.
joke.
Yeah.
She never once pointed to any person or group and made fun of them.
No, she never said what we're saying, which is that you're sexist man children who need to stay in the basement and get off social media. She didn't
No.
say that. We might have said that.
I just Linsay said that.
Linsay, no,
Go
you said
after her.
man children first.
But let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
If you are the type of person who is going to get so sensitive and shook over something like that, and you cannot look at the bigger picture and then see these other actors and actresses who have said and done so much worse, committing actual crimes, and not get more mad at them.
It's the double standard. It's a double standard.
You have to question why that's the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
Because that's not normal.
No.
That's not normal. And I'm not going to disparage any group, but it's not normal, guys. Like, think about it, dude. We can't have this. We can't continue to, try and push forward and make good art and have people like this pushing back at every fucking turn, because it's just going to have us end up with Wonder Woman fucking 1984. Like, that's where we're going to be. We're going to have, boring as fuck Captain Marvel for her first film. That's where it's going to be, because Hollywood isn't going to take risks on making female characters be fully fleshed out and actually look like human fucking beings on screen as they should.
Right. Or it's going to take someone like Scarlett Johansson being the most powerful woman in Hollywood at one point, the highest paid actress in Hollywood, to get to a point in her career where when Black Widow rolled around, she was able to call the shots with everything down to the wardrobe. And she made the decision to say, no, my costumes are going to be functional. And she is the one who has come out in statements and said, look where Black Widow started when there was no female input into how this character looked. And she was just a sexy plot point. And look at where she is now. But for people like, obviously, the lovely actress who is playing Faye, she does not have Scarlett Johansson's power to be able to literally take on a studio and win. And I'm going to say win because she obviously settled things fine with Disney, because we're going to get more of her in the MCU and we're getting the Tower of Terror spinoff. So it's like, for all the for all the, Faye Dunaway's, geez Louise, Faye Valentine's out there, Scarlett Johansson's one person, and think of all the other women who are trying to fight the fight who don't have her power.
Right. Exactly. And
Daniella
has gotten away with some crap that I'm just like, you get away with the same crap that men get away with. Wow. How do you do it?
Powerful. You sell tickets.
How do you do it, girl? But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because it was so prevalent. It was so prevalent and gross. But yeah, so anything else to say about this show? I didn't hate it. I just think that it was, but I think that's because I just wasn't surprised by what we got, because I have seen other live action adaptations of anime, both both foreign and made by the US, and I'm sorry, but whether it come out of a Japanese studio or an American studio, I just don't like live action anime. I just adaptations, I just don't like them. I don't think I think it's
They
kind of
don't translate
insulting
well.
to the original artworks, to the original arts that they come from
Mhm.
to do it, because it's like, it isn't the original good enough?
Right.
Apparently not by Hollywood standards.
Right. So
And
like,
that in itself is
yeah.
points to an issue with how Hollywood treats anime and animation
Yeah. And
to
we'll see
begin
what
with.
happens with Avatar, because obviously the first Avatar Last Bender Air movie, geez, I can't talk today. Avatar Last Airbender movie
Um,
was not well received. We
I
have
want you all to strap in and be prepared to be disappointed again.
it might not be
I'm
M
just
Night
saying,
Shyamalan disappointment, but yeah.
you're I'm just saying it's not gonna
It's not going to be the original. It's not going to be the animated series.
it's not gonna capture the like the imagination of your, it's not gonna capture your childhood again. It just fucking won't. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
that's my piece. Anyway,
Anywho,
I guess we're done.
I guess we're done. Those are our thoughts. I'm sure you have thoughts. We'd love to know your thoughts. And if you were one of those
Namaste,
people that I
bitches.
insulted, I apologize. But as Genevieve said, you are wrong.
As I said, if you think this way,
If you think this way,
probably
you should reevaluate.
you should reevaluate what you find acceptable and
Acceptable.
unacceptable behavior between people of different genders and all of that.
Yeah. Yes.
Anywho.
Anywho.
If
Thanks
you
for
liked
watching.
our show, it's been a long fucking week, dude.
It has. It
If
has.
you liked our show, please like and subscribe. Ring that bell. If you absolutely hated everything we said, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. If you agreed with what we said, I would also like you to kind of put a buffer zone between the bad
all the
comments
hate
and my feelings.
Yes.
So yeah, we upload every Friday at noon Pacific Standard Time, and we'd love to see you again, even if you just come back to rip us a new one.
We've got thick skin.
Namaste, bitches.
Yeah.
We will see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.